think we're good. Aha! Make sure there's audio.
Ready.
Okay, well, there's audio on ads, obviously. So while that's going, I'll just go ahead and do the normal introduction. Hello, everyone. This is Chris Ingerson. It is February 16th, and this is the February 16th TextQuest Dev stream. It is Tuesday, and we are going to be doing art. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on doing a lot of art for the Plains area. I've made a lot of substances for this already. I haven't finished all of them because a lot of them actually I'm going to completely redo. I'm not just going to be retracing the old stuff. Let me make sure I have audio. Okay, good, I do. So this is going to be sort of an adventure in updating the old model because this old model, as you can see, the UVs aren't laid out properly for stuff like the mountain and the forest. And also, you'll notice that the edges don't properly line up. This is because this is the first level that I ever made for TextQuest. And it looks like the height map is also super messed up for it. You can see it sliding around. Anyway, this is the first level that I ever made for TextQuest. So that means this is the first models, or these are the first models that I made for TextQuest. Not technically the very first one, because those would be the demos, and that would be a train. But you can definitely see the terrible design choices that I made, the inexperience, and a lot of other things that are just terrible. So we're going to be updating this model by pulling it into Maya. This was originally modeled out in Cinema 4D, so it was a completely different modeling tool that I used. We'll be pulling this into Maya, making edits, moving things around, properly setting up UV maps again. So we're going to be all over the place bouncing back and forth between texturing and modeling tonight. Which brings me to not a new point, but something I've been thinking about for a while. I don't think I'm going to be streaming on Mondays anymore, just because Monday nights for me are just getting worse and worse schedule-wise, both because of my job and the fact that I am a graduate student, and as a graduate student, I'm also an AI, which is also known as a TA, or teacher's assistant, or assistant instructor, for my school for some reason. And I have a computer lab that I have to teach at 8 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so Monday night is usually spent sort of messing around with what I need to teach everyone to make sure that I'm capable of guiding the students through the software. So, that eats up a significant portion of my Monday night in addition to working, which means that I have just like this tiny window to do a dev stream, and it really doesn't feel like I have enough time to do anything there. So I think I'm just going to cut Monday nights out, which means that now my streaming will only be done on Tuesdays and Thursdays, definitely, and then occasionally on Saturdays. I was actually hoping to get some streaming done last Saturday, except I ended up working all weekend. So that's why Saturday is classified as TBA whenever I show the schedule. But that is something that I'm going to be trying to do a better job at, streaming on Saturdays. Not necessarily game development. I might use it as a way to sort of examine games that I like, and talk a little bit maybe about why I like them, or interesting design choices that they've made, things that I sort of like to look at and use. But we'll see how that goes. Saturday is sort of the free-for-all day. But anyway, so today we're going to be doing art. First thing we're going to be doing is pulling in the old Plains FBX into Maya, because I as it is right now, I only have the FBX. I don't even have the original Cinema 4D file. Or if I do, and I probably do actually, it's buried somewhere on my old MacBook Pro laptop, which is terrible laptop. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Set Project, and then we're going to go to Models, should be Overworld, Plains. Set Project here. We will, actually, hold on. Project window, that's what I meant to do. Models, Overworld, Plains. Here we go. Select. We'll call this Plains. All that's fine. Hit accept. All right. So next we're going to have to actually open up our FBX. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab the FBX from my original, or from the project. So we should have planes. It's probably planes new actually. So I have I've got junk FBX files in here. Go figure. Just to make sure, that's 3. So that's March of last year. Oh, good. They're both March of last year. Well, cases like that, I'm going to go ahead and select this. So it's planes new. That's what I want. Terrible, terrible naming conventions. And that's what happens when you model for your first time ever. So let's go back here, grab planes new, and then we should have our planes folder right here. Go to scenes. I'm just going to copy this in. That way I have this FBX here and I'm not editing this one. So we're going to go to File, Import, grab planes new, and hit Import. So this will give us a bunch of stuff. Of course, it's going to be zoomed up, which is, I don't like when I want to do this. Don't like it when it does that, but you know, you just kind of got to do it. All right, so now we're going to be messing with positioning, and we're going to be messing with the textures that are used here. So these are the default textures currently that came in with the FBX, but I'm actually going to have to get rid of these all and use the substance texture maps that I want. So I'm going to have to go to, this is my planes area, and we will see, I don't have anything exported right now, I believe, which is fine. But I do have my substances, fortunately, open down here. So we can just sort of work our way down this list. We'll open them up in Substance Player, then we'll just export them so that I have these bitmaps to work with in my actual FBX file. So we'll bump these up to 1024 by 1024 and export as bitmap. Change this into a PNG. Only export from base color, and we are going to export to planes. And hit export. So now if I look at this, we have a dirt base color. And I'm just going to do this real quick for all of my other textures here. So we're going to have our forest mountains. And that's because I atlased the forest and the mountains texture, since they were both longer width-wise than they were height-wise. So this way that's only one draw call for both the forest and the mountain. Again, we're going to bump this up to 1024 by 1024, export as bitmap, only do base color, change it to PNG. I could use a Targa. I tend to just use PNG so that I can make sure that I'm looking at it properly in the Explorer window, because Targas don't open like PNGs do. Targas have to open, I think, Photoshop for me currently, because there's no real quick default viewer for Targas. And really, I should use Targas instead of PNGs, but I mean, it's only temporary because the substance file is generating all that stuff anyway. But Targas are like the high resolution art asset that you want to use. That's the good file format. It's like a art equivalent of a WAV file, basically. And for those of you who have not worked with audio, WAV formats are uncompressed audio, which means that they're high quality audio. So all that's correct. Hit export. Again, I'm just going to double check. Take a drink. So we got our grass, our forest mountains base, and our dirt so far. Got to get our soil next. Go ahead to 1024 by 1024. Export as bitmap. I really do need to have a automated way of doing this. I think that would help out a lot. So I wonder if I could put up some sort of like batch file to do this for me, basically. Don't have to worry about tree or wheat yet, and not wooden sign. So the files I've exported so far will actually be sufficient for the environment. It's not going to be good enough for the entirety of the level yet, but like I was saying, those are old models, and we'll probably end up remodeling some of them. And even though our sign has actually already been done, if we look at it, it's been done, but it's actually pretty terrible. So if we look at our material on this, um, come over here to wooden sign. This is our texture, which of course is going to show up as nothing until I change this. I don't know why Unity does that, but sometimes it does. You can see that it's sort of scattered everywhere. And this was actually fine. This was the way that I was approaching texturing for this game because everything's lined up with words, and it works. But unfortunately, since I moved over to Substance, I actually need to factor in resolution of these words. So before, when it was just the single base texture with text and solid colors, it didn't really matter what size the text was or where it was, more or less, because I could just move things around, make the UVs match up, and it would be fine. But now that I'm using Substance to generate these noise files for like the normal maps, you can tell that stuff like Post, which is a lot smaller than Wood Sign, has finer granularity to it. So it looks a lot nicer than the sort of washed out staticky wood sign here. And that's because this wood sign is basically blown up and scaled wrong. So I'm going to have to redo these textures to make smarter use of the actual spacing of the words and their positioning. So that we might get to the wood sign tonight, depending on how long it takes me to sort of port this mesh over in Maya. But if we get to it, it won't take too long. It'll just be a nice little quick redesign in Substance. So let's get back to Maya. And now that we have our textures in here, we actually need to reassign these materials. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Hypershade. So these are the default materials that came in with the FBX that I originally had. They are not great, and I wonder if I can, okay, good, I think I can actually reassign it. Cool. So I'm going to reassign this to, let's go to planes, and source images, and soil base. Okay. Minor change, but now it's affected over here. That's kind of hard to see through the crack there. Which is what I want. So this is the material, or this is the texture that was generated from our substance file, and we want to use that to line up our UVs. I don't think I'm going to have to actually do much with the ground, fortunately, because that's all in a good spot. I actually like where the soil, the grass, and the dirt are all currently set up. So I don't really need to do anything with their UV maps. The more difficult UV maps are going to be the forest, and I should probably just minimize this, are going to be the forest and our mountains, because their UVs are not set up to use the current texture. But it won't be that hard to do. It's just going to be some slight adjustment on our end. So let's go ahead and open this back up. We go to mountain, and let's end up deleting the forest material. Let's click on our mountain, go to color, click on this little icon over here. We're going to change our image again. Go over to planes, source images, and now it's going to be forest mountains base color. Is it okay? I'm going to select this and rename this to forest mountain map. So that's all nice. And now you can see that everything's kind of scrunched down and a little awkward to look at. But that's just because the UVs are not properly done yet. And we'll be able to fix that very quickly. Let's get this back up. Let's finish importing all of our textures. Again, grab this. I really wish that it had like a recent one. Source images. Oh, it does have it right here. That's convenient. Grass base color. Hit OK. It's basically the exact same. Don't have to worry about that. Again, color for our dirt. Change this. Go to source images and dirt. And then boom. Okay, so those are all correct now. Like I was saying before, it really wasn't going to be much of a difference on the grass and the dirt and the soil, because those UVs aren't going to change. They are exactly where I want them to be. Okay, apparently not exactly. It looks like I'm going to have to slide the soil up slightly to the right. But aside from that, it should be fine. Then I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this, assign existing material. Ooh. Oh, that's interesting. Really? Okay, let's go back to Phong. Or let's go back to our shader. Huh. Weird. It doesn't look like I can actually Oh dear. Object mode. Select this, assign existing material. Curious. It won't let me actually do it. Okay, well then, for some reason, let's just go ahead and make a new one, I suppose. So we're going to go to Create Materials and Phong. We're going to delete our Forest Mountain one. Rename Phong 2 to Forest Mountain Matte. Change our color to a file. And go ahead and make that our Forest Mountains base color. Then change this to Forest Mountain Text. I wonder if that's just because of the way things were working here. Who knows? Alright, so now we can assign it to this. Let's go to Object Mode. Assign it to both of these objects. Assign existing material, Forest Mountain. Right, I forgot that those are separate objects. Assign existing material, Forest Mountain. Cool. So we don't need to do anything extra with that. We'll go ahead and save our place out in our scenes. And I'm just going to call it Plains. So now we actually have our FBX file inside Maya. It's not just an FBX that's terrible to edit anymore. So hopefully that'll be better on in the future. Alright, so now we're going to have to make adjustments. And I wonder if it would be easier for me to just model this entire thing again. It'll probably be fine. It won't be too bad. So, I'm just going to go ahead and select these. Go ahead and hit Automatic UV Layout. Open up our UV editor. And, oh boy, this is going to be fun. Okay. And actually, you know what? Before we do any sort of UV layouts, I'm going to do a couple of things. One, I'm going to select each one of these UV layouts and delete their light map. Because their old light maps are just sort of garbage. They're fine, they work, but they are not, they're going to get overwritten anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete those so that we only have our one texture, or our one UV map that we're going to be working from. And then I will make a new UV map after I'm done with laying out the textures and whatnot. And that just helps me avoid having conflicts with different UV maps. So, let's go ahead and grab this. You can see that things aren't lining up perfectly with the edge down here. And they really should. So, edge, right click on that, hit F, so it focuses up on it. And let's see. And you can see that it's bleeding into the actual mesh. And I don't know if it's because at the time, I mean, it was probably a combination of things, but at the time, I think this was done way back in Unity. Oh, this might have actually been in 3 when I started. And Unity 3, compared to what Unity has become today, was really bad. I mean, it worked, and it was free. It was a 3D engine, so it was cool, but there were a lot of limitations. Mix that with my, incredible lack of experience whatsoever, and things just kind of did not work out well for me. So I think it's actually going to be faster for me to just model this out entirely from scratch. Not necessarily the entire level, not necessarily the base. I think oh, man. Well, I think the floor is fine. The ground, I think, is fine. I'm just going to have to redo the mountains and the forest, which they're just square walls. It's not that hard to do. Hello, Garrett. Doing art tonight. Combination of modeling and texturing. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Windows, Outliner. I'm going to go ahead and open up my Outliner, and I'm going to put the old mountains in their own layer. Go over here. Let's go to layers, create layer from selected. Call it the mountain layer. Hit save, and then make that invisible. So now I can just start with a new plane. Move it up. Oh, this is going to be great because everything's going to be super tiny. All right, subdivisions 1, subdivisions height 1. And let's start out. There should be actually an option for which way it's facing. How have you been, Garrett? I assume busy, but oh, I can never remember where this goes. Rotate order, that's all fine. Ah, here we are. Axis should be 1, 0, I believe. Yep, there we go. We're just going to move it over here. Let's go back here, and we're going to change our height to be 10. Oh my, 100. That might be about what I want. Hold on, X. Move this down. Move this down again. And move it a little bit further down just so we can make sure it's lining up. Okay, so it's a little... I think it's lined up. It's hard to tell. I'll be able to tell a little bit more in a second. Let's change our width to another 100. Oh, it's going to be way longer than that. Let's go 400. That is... I think that's exactly the dimension I want, actually. 400 by 100. Oh yeah, I need to do taxes. It'll be the first year I actually claim a lot of business expenses. Oh, that'll be fun. Okay, so now looking at it from this side, we can see that it's actually clipping a little bit, which is not good. So let's try to fix that. Let's go to edge. Ah, crap, I clicked on, yeah. Let's go to edge mode here. Are you at negative 200? Okay, so it is negative 200, that's where we want to go. So that clipping is just because of the highlighting, it looks like, and it won't actually be visible. Not that it matters, but S Corp. I'm just an LLC. I didn't go for S Corp. I think S Corp had a few extra things that I would have had to have done that just didn't quite make sense. But I'm gonna move this down a little bit to about there. Let's move it down a little bit more to 50. Oh, good. Great. So these don't line up perfectly. Of course they don't. It was soft selection, if I remember correctly. Ugh. That's just gross. Well, we're going to fix that. Actually, go to edge or vertex so that I can actually see it. That's at, really, y of 0. That worked out great. Oh man, brutal. Let me try. I'll just move the vertex, I think. That way it's not going to affect as much. Hold down V, snap it down. Alright, that's good. Corps are weird. Just an LLC. Well, LLC is actually super easy to do in Indiana. It's literally like it's like $50 and you send in an electronic form, and then like 2 days later you get an automated response that's like, yeah, you're fine, you're an LLC now. So it's incredibly easy to do, in Indiana at least. You have to, really? You have to have a meeting with yourself? Huh. Is that some sort of like minutes thing or like board that you have to have? So you basically have to talk to yourself? Alright. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and right click on our edge, hit F, and now I'm going to extrude this. So extrude edge. We're going to go off this way. This is probably 400 again. Oh, good. It's probably like 350 or 375. Or some stupid number because I was a terrible shit modeler. 360. Why do I do that to myself? Now, you know what? God, I could probably remodel this entire thing and have it look much better. There is literally no reason why I should not. And it would actually let me get rid of this blocky aesthetic a little bit. Once a year, you need a shareholders meeting, plus any major event like opening a checking account. Yeah. Huh. Well, tax benefits. You gotta take the good with the bad. Although that is really funny. I mean, how does that work? Do you have like, do you have to like have a detailed account of who said what, or do you just have like a generalized meeting notes thing that you have to submit, or that's crazy if you only have one person. I'm gonna go to extrude edge. I'm gonna extrude this to negative 300. Oh dear, we go way further than that. Negative probably 500. We'll go negative 600. Yep, tax benefits. That's why anyone does anything with this corporation stuff. It's partially why I'm an LLC. Actually, that's mostly why I'm an LLC. See, it just makes me worried that I'm... See, I know that it's just my mind playing tricks on me, that sort of line is just there because it's touching exactly on the edge of this face, but it still bugs me. Ah. So is that correct? That looks like, yeah, I was exactly right. So it's 100 high. Cool. So there's our mountain, our base, anyway. Yeah, it's all like weird corporate business legal speak. Huh. Yeah. Well, I don't think for an LLC I have to do anything. I might have to do more if I had other people, because if you have more than one person, you have to have stuff like an operating agreement, which I think I actually do have an operating agreement, even though it's just me, but it's there for safety reasons in case, for some reason, some outstanding debt against my LLC comes up, so I don't get, have to pay for it. I'm gonna rename this to Mountain Base. Save real quick. And then we're going to just go ahead and duplicate. Once we've duplicated, we're just going to drag. Actually, you know what? I'm going to get rid of that first. Then I'm going to edit this, delete history, and we are going to actually move our... Why are you so mad at me? I'm going to move this down to our base there. Insert. So now our pivot is at the base there, which is nice for us. Yes. And now we're going to duplicate this. And just drag the copy, which apparently does not want to move. Oh dear. What are you doing? Hold down X. That should snap. Why is it snapping down? That's super weird. Huh. Yeah, I have thought of showing it off. In fact, Williams actually talked to me a little bit, like months ago, about showing it off on his stream, when he first started doing that, but it wasn't at a good state at the time. And think it's almost progressed far enough that I would actually be happy to take him up on his offer. Um, but I still have a few things that I would like to do before I show it off on his stream. Assuming that he would still be interested in doing it. Because it's come a long way from where it was. So I'm going to translate this to negative 20 and negative 20z. Okay. But I'll have to talk to him then. Because I think it's at a pretty good point. I would probably have to, like, depending on when he has it in the schedule. If it's like immediately in the near future, I would have to crunch to make sure that the first intro works. Because basically, I want to have the first two levels be completely playable before I go on there. Because those first two levels, the castle and the sewer, have basically all of the mechanics. They have interactions. They have opening and unlocking doors. They have your inventory management. They have combat. They have the base mechanics in there, which is why I want to use those as my free demo, basically, as well. So if I do anything, go ahead and assign this material while we're here. I would have to make sure that those are in a good spot. And I think they're close. And I think if given a deadline, I could crunch to actually make them work properly, and it would be fine. Okay, so this is going to be the awkward part. I try to make this perspective of a mountain work properly. Looks sort of like I'm in a correct spot. It's a little hard to tell. Although they are lined up perfectly. So, okay. So I think I want to move this mountain up a little bit. Let's go to 40. There we go. So I'll have to talk to him then, if he's looking for games right now. I'll call this mountain center. Duplicate this one more time, and this is going to be our peak. So our peak is going to be at negative 40, negative 40 in the Z, and positive, I don't know, 200. It's really hard to tell because it's freaking semi-transparent, so it's fading over each other, making it hard for me to tell. I think if I do this, I'll be able to force it. Okay. So this needs to go up higher. Let's try 240. Let's try 230. There we go. The idea is that it can't be completely parallel with the top because it'll look sort of odd. But if you do it like this, basically, it creates a perspective illusion that it looks like things are stacking, so they look farther away. And let me turn this on. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing I need to do, I think... Well, it's not terrible, actually. But I will go ahead and move this face to, let's say, negative, or just, let's do 300. Really? Okay. Not sure how that worked out, but we'll do 200 then. Okay. That's weird, but sure, why not? We'll go to 50. And we're going to do the same thing with this face. We're going to go to, let's say, 100. Or 75. Okay, 100. That way our mountain looks like it stacks a little bit more extremely. There we go. I think that works. But yeah, before I forget, congratulations on the stream last Friday. It was a very, very nice stream. And it reminded me of the fact that I need to get a webcam. Because I do not have one. Since, I thought when I first started out streaming, It's one of those things that I thought about, and I'm like, well, I could get a webcam, but then I would scare everyone away. So, uh, haven't really thought about it too much since then. It's been kind of a side thing that I need to do, but I just haven't had the time. All right. So rename this to Mountain Peak. And there's our new mountain, which is very nice. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the old mountain. And now, this visible. I'm going to group my mountains under one mountain. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add selected objects. Boom. Yeah, it's Well, the problem is that I can't just like buy a crappy one because I'm probably gonna need it in the future anyway. So that means I gotta get a decent one at least. And in all honesty, I probably should get like a decent microphone set up instead of just my headset. But just one of those things that's it's an expense that I need to make, but I've been holding off as long as I can, I suppose. All right, so now we have that. Let's go ahead and do a new layer. Call this the forest layer. Forest layer. Okay. Turn that off. And now we're going to just model out our forest. So again, just create a single plane, subdivisions one by one. Logitech, really? Logitech C920. Okay. I will take a look at it. And I think this time we want it to be 1 and 0 this way. Ooh, so close. -1. So I want to say that this is actually going to go to 200, I think. And we'll start it over. Actually, no, we'll start it over here this time. So let's see. We're looking at. It's probably going to be like a height of 50, I want to say. About half of the. Yeah, 50 looks about right. Which means that our translate's going to be 25. And then our width will be 150, I'm guessing. Okay, 200 for this first one. It's going to be a little awkward because we have this outcropping that we need to do. Alrighty then. So, I'm going to go ahead and move my pivot. It's going to be at the bottom here, just so that I can snap it. Hold down V, snap it to the X. Now I hope that that is the low point, and I think it might be. I'm just going to double check here with my vertex. It said 0, good. So this is correct right now. Let's see. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Grab this edge, hold down V. I'm going to move it to there. Then we're going to extrude. Extrude out. Hold down V. Extrude there. And it's probably fine as is right there. We're going to extrude edge. Go down here. Hold down V. So I snap to my points. Again, we're going to extrude edge. Hold out. Wow, this is working out really well. Who'd have thought that making a simple shape would be so easy? I mean, right click, extrude edge, and this should be the last one for this side. We're going to have to do another extrude on the other edge, but this should be fine for now. Now my question here is, do we see any sort of fall through? It looks like it's fine, and if I ever get too worried, I can do like rocks or something. Oh yeah, I'm going to have to redo this texture too. The grass texture because I changed how I do my approach for these hard textures. Um, okay, well that won't take too long in Substance. $80. That's not too bad. I know that I occasionally complain about having my job, which is a terrible thing to say. I actually really like my job, but one of the benefits of having it is, and working, full time, is that I actually have spending money. So, yeah, I'm not as stingy on buying hardware that I need or other expenses that I need to make. So let's snap this to there. I think we'll be fine. And this is something that I really wish I had a better way of doing level transitions. Because for this, I just kind of like leave it open, so it looks like it fades into nothingness, and I don't like that. As you can see in the original forest, I sort of like fade in a little bit. And, yeah. So I need to figure out a better way of displaying that. I don't have grass going vertically like Blades of Grass. Currently, it's just a flat pattern, and it's hard to tell here because this is just the base color, which means that there's no texture to it. It's just the color. So I don't have like normal maps or anything associated with this. Although I might try that at some point because Maya LT has Stingray shaders. So I can come up here to create, and I can do a Stingray PBS, which is a physically based shader in for the Stingray engine, which I also need to try the Stingray engine. So many engines for me to try. I need to get William to write me a grass shader. Well, I need to look up some way of doing. I've been trying to think of a good way to do grass shaders with text, but it's kind of awkward. So I'm still thinking about how to do that. Stingray is Autodesk's game engine. It came out either earlier this year or late last year. They've been talking about it for a while. But basically it has integration with Maya and Maya LT or 3ds Max and all of their other 3D suites. And it's just supposed to be a really, really nice engine for artists. But it's their game engine because everyone's getting into the game engine now. I don't know why, but they are. Right click, assign existing material, Forest Mountain Mat. I haven't messed with it, so I can't really say if it's good or bad. But from what I've heard, it's at least a decent engine, and it's physically based shaders, so it's good in the art department at the very least. Yeah, another one. And I barely had some time this weekend to open up Lumberyard, Amazon's game engine, and oh boy, is it a chore to open that thing up. It is. I mean, it's like 30 gigabytes just to download it. I mean, it's 10 gigabyte zipped download that you have to extract into about a 35 gigabyte game engine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do automatic layouts. So I'm going to set up my forest texture first. Yeah, well, the thing is, like, it's a good time to be a game engine because, I mean, currently Unreal and Unity kind of have a bit of a chokehold on the independent sector. But I think basically all the game engines are coming out and being like, it's free! Just use our game engine. You don't have to worry about anything. We won't charge you a dime. And I'm actually wondering if Unreal's going to eventually have to change their practice because Unreal at this point is really the only one that asks for money after you launch. I mean, Unity has a weird one where after you make $50,000, they want you to pay for a Unity Pro license, which is like, oh no, you made $50,000, just pay us $1K. But Unreal's is like, pay us 3 or 5% of all of your revenue after $50,000, and that's actually pretty steep. But Unity's is a much better deal because it's only like a one-time one license purchase of Unity Pro. But it seems like Amazon Lumberyard, and I think Stingray just doesn't care. Stingray's just like, use this for whatever. Yeah, Amazon Lumberyard is literally just like, it's free forever because we don't care about the engine. We want you to use our Amazon services. Um, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and... Why is this always so... Okay, so this is a stupid thing about Windows 10. See how I'm getting stuck on the edge here? Trying to drag a window between monitors, it like detects the edge of one monitor to the next as like the hard edge. So it tries to just do like a partial full screen on this whenever I try to drag it. It's infuriating. I don't know why they designed it to do that, but it did. It's yeah. I mean, I don't mind Windows 10. I actually feel kind of bad when I first upgraded because my power source failed in a bizarre coincidence, and I just blamed it on Windows 10. So I feel bad for just jumping to conclusions like that. It was a very bizarre timing because it literally happened like right afterwards. Um, but anyway, copy this into a new UV set. We get our light map, and then we're gonna go ahead and do polygons layout. Not really gonna do much here, but yeah. Well, my main problem with Windows 10 was when I upgraded, I went through the custom installation so that I could specify like all of my default applications. And then as soon as I booted it up, it didn't save any of those. It kept trying to open up the ones that Windows 10 used by default. I'm like, no, I manually specified which ones I wanted you to use. So I had to reset all of those, and it was just, So map 1. All right, so this is going to be fun. So let's go ahead and rotate this. Let's rotate these. Move them this way. Rotate left. And rotate left. I don't think I'm going to have to rotate this one, fortunately. But yeah, I don't know why there's definitely some problems with how they set things up. So we're going to line this stuff up. Go ahead and get this. And boom. Okay. So next, highlight all of this. Move it up to here. Do this for now. I'm going to go turn on backface so I can see everything. Or not backface. I don't actually know what this is. Shaded UV display. I always just called it backface for some reason because it was showing the backs. UVs. I'm just going to snap all of these and slam them down. Do the same thing here. Nice. And for this, it's a little bit more frustrating because I can't quite do that. Oh, hit delete by accident. Not delete, insert. Alright, we're just going to slide that right over there. And actually, you know what, we'll go ahead and try to match it up a little bit clearer. But yeah, overall, Windows 10 is I mean, I didn't really have any complaints with Windows 8. I mean, yeah, the start menu was terrible in Windows 8 because you didn't really have a start menu. You had just like a weird tile system. But it definitely could have been worse. So I really only upgraded to Windows 10 for the eventual DirectX 12 support. And because in general, Windows usually does a good job of increasing optimization for or improving optimization for their game support with each version. Because Windows 8, even people who really liked Windows 7, Windows 8 was way better optimized for game usage. So you would get much better performance in games with Windows 8 than with Windows 7. Yeah, and DirectX 12 will be interesting when it finally comes out. Still more excited about Vulkan, but that's just because I actually want to learn Vulkan. With DirectX 12, it's always good to see new APIs or updates to APIs to have better access and more control over stuff. a little bit closer. And boom. Yeah. Well, I mean, eh, it's like that for any operating system, honestly. It's not like Mac is the shining example of just versions being better all the time objectively. Um, actually, no, before we do that, let's go ahead and turn on snapping. Hate that. Let's drag this over here. That would be my cat. Why does she want so much attention? Yes, I see you, cat. Too flat? Oh yeah, the Windows 10 look. Well, it's weird because so for a while there was this weird sort of cold war between Windows and Mac on UI design, but so Windows went flat first. Um, it so with Windows 8 it went flat basically, and then shortly after Windows 8 came out, Apple went flat too for all of their UI. Um, and it just sort of it was weird because at the time I remember thinking like that the UI is a huge way to help differentiate between Apple and Mac or Apple and Mac between Apple and Microsoft stuff. So Microsoft had this very like efficient flat look to it, while Apple had a very sort of textured look to it because you had sort of this like pseudo 3D and all of their stuff. But then in like iOS like 6 or 7, maybe I think it was 6. Um, they went with this really flat look, and then shortly after that, their actual, um, ooh, yeah, nope, that's what we want. I do gotta flip these guys though. But shortly after that, um, Apple came out with that flat look, and it basically made both of their operating systems look very similar at a glance. So it was a very weird choice. Okay, now we gotta flip this. But I guess it's sort of like that. I mean, admittedly, for Apple, it matches a little bit better because Apple's big thing in the 2000s was that sort of like clean Helvetica inspired look. So everything's just like nice and prim and proper, and there's nothing out of place because there's not really much there. But Microsoft, who knows? They just wanted their fancy tiles. All right, so our trees are now a little bit better laid out. On to the mountains. Go ahead and pull this up. All right, so let's close this. And I'm going to go ahead. I really should have done this first. Oh well. Do our UV layout. Yeah, I would agree. I so my big thing is I hate that Mac applications go into full screen whenever you click on maximize now. So like on Windows, if I maximize this box, I still have the window here. I still have the toolbar here. On Mac, it's like full screen, and I hate that. I almost never use full screen for anything because I like having access to my toolbar or to my desk, or my dock or my taskbar or whatever at the bottom of the screen whenever I want. In full screen mode, I'm just kind of like impotently clicking at the bottom of the screen, being like, why can't I click on anything? Um, so let's go ahead and grab these. We're gonna go to polygons, copy into new UV set, and then do layout. Go to UV set, map 1, and now we are going to rotate. And we are going to rotate the other direction, apparently. Okay, so let's look at. Basically, going to be like this. This guy, and this guy. Again, we're going to go to vertex. Snap them down. Oh, I did not want to do that. I'm going to go to UV. Snap them down. And snap them down. Go to face. Insert. We're going to drag this over. Yeah, Mac's way of doing installations is a little bit nicer. Where you have that like sort of separate window that you drag things into the applications folder. It was always kind of a novel thing. What do you mean Unity games don't need an installer? You still have some... really? Come on, work with me here. You technically don't need it. Actually, that's one of my biggest complaints about Mac is that the installation stuff is a nightmare. Almost all really nice installation software packages, like applications that will make good installations for Mac, are $1,000. They're freaking expensive as hell. But on Windows, you can get really solid ones for free. Yeah. Well, I kind of get what you mean now. It's got its ups and its downs. It's nice to have a single application file as opposed to like exe and then a data folder. But overall, I'd say that their Mac side is actually a little more annoying to work with. It also does not help that. Oh right, crap! I forgot. Mountains is actually kind of awkward. We'll see what we can do here. Right. Huh. That's kind of fine. So we're going to go ahead and stretch that. But there are some problems I've had with Mac builds. I also don't like that Mac builds are generally slightly larger by a couple of megabytes for some arbitrary reason. Windows builds are usually a lot more lean, or a lot leaner than Mac builds are for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just something on Unity's end, or if it's just something that like Mac has to have these extra files. But it makes it kind of frustrating to do anything with them. All right. So now we go ahead and turn off our back display. And now I'm going to shrink it just a little bit. Then move it up just a little bit. And there we go. There's our mountain. Cool. And check our light map. Looks good. Go back here. Yeah, and that's just a fact of life, is that audio takes up a lot of space. Sad fact of life. Need a drink. Fortunately, textures are the second largest usually, and for TextQuest, since I'm using Substance, that file size drops dramatically. Because most of my textures with Substance are like 7 kilobytes. Although, admittedly, the largest files in TextQuest so far are the light maps, by far. Light maps are just freaking huge. They are frustratingly large. They're about 50 megabytes per level. Well, per large outdoor level like this. And that's just because of the way that it's calculated out. It's by Unity's units, which is a meter. So it's large levels like this just have lots of light map, or have large light map files. It sucks. So I need to find a good way to get around that because it's just not acceptable to have like to have 50 or even five or not 500, even 100 or 200 megabyte file sizes. It's just not acceptable for a game like this. For an independent game, I don't want to go over a gig. And I don't know how realistic that is, honestly. So soil, actually, while I'm here, go ahead and open this up. I'm going to go ahead and go to face. I'm going to delete this current UV set. Go here. I'm going to copy into new UV set. Do an automatic layout on it. Do polygons. Layout. Cool. So we got this, and now we're going to do this awkward thing where I have to drag this just a little bit. So it's right about there. Drag it just a little bit right to there, I think. Basically, so it's right in the center. Perfect. So now you can see that it's not clipping like it was before. So that's good. Object mode. Nice. It's lined up properly. Got to learn more about baked lighting. Yeah, I try to use almost entirely baked lighting because it looks much better. And it also is more performant because it's not trying to calculate lighting in real time. So I'll bake global illumination, I'll bake the shadows, I'll bake ambient occlusion, all that stuff. And it ends up looking really, really nice. So if I actually come over here, so this is the plains level. It does not have any lighting baked right now. It's all dynamic, I believe. And that's just because this original light map was baked eons ago. But if I go to my canyon level, let that load up. The lighting in the canyon looks way better. So you get these nice hard shadows in certain areas. Well, actually, they're soft shadows, but you get these nice angles. I'll go ahead and play. Oh, freaking really? I need to figure out what does this. It's cool if I was intentionally doing that, but I'm not, so I don't know what's doing this. You can see like this distortion. Anyway, I think it's a height map issue, but I don't know why, because this doesn't even have a height map. It's just really weird. Again, if this was intentional, I would be really proud of that effect. But yeah, the light map for this gives it really nice subtlety for stuff like the shadows on the rope, on the planks here. I really like the shadow cast from here. And all of it's, it's pretty simplistic. I could probably do this with a real-time light. But it's better for me to do it without a real-time light, with a baked light. It just works a lot better. And stuff like the cave, which is completely dark, works really well. And the other benefit is, to it is that it lets you, I found that real-time lighting is not as accurate when it comes to your light map. So if I had a real-time light here, you would actually see some sort of like some cracks of light going through the mesh. And I don't know why it does that. I'm guessing because it has to approximate for some of its calculations, which just means that it's going to slip through your meshes a little bit easier. But yeah, for the most part, it's just better to use a real time or a baked light. Although, you know what, I might try to use a real time. Ooh, freaking height map. I might actually try to use a real time light for this entire scene, see what the performance is like. Because if it's not terrible, I could actually, that would actually solve a lot of my problems that I'm having with this staircase. Because the staircase is dynamic, it's not static, which means that I need to have a real-time light anyway in the scene. So I don't know, I'll have to mess around with that. Yeah, well, and you don't really need static lighting unless you're using sort of more traditional level design, I suppose. Because you really only need it for stuff like things that have a lot of shadows being cast that aren't necessarily going to be dynamic. So it makes more sense to save them for just baking. Let's go back to Autodesk. Right. Um, oh, and you know what? They're not actually all the same, which sucks. Go figure. Let's pull this up. Let's grab both of these guys. Grab their faces. Ah, dang it, I can't. We'll do this one at a time then. Polygons, copy into new UV set. Layout. There's our light map for that one. I'm going to rotate this way. We're going to move down. Are they correct? Nope. We're going to rotate them back. There we go. And again, like this. Go to UV. Slam them down. And go to UV and slam them down again. Yeah, and real-time lights. That's the other reason I try to avoid them is for every object that casts a shadow, you get an extra draw call with a real-time light, and that's per light. So if you have 3 lights in the scene, you're getting 3 times as many extra draw calls, which sucks. Whew. Yeah. And actually, I need to do better with draw calls. I'm trying to do sort of mesh atlas or not mesh atlasing, material atlasing as much as possible. Or texture atlasing. So stuff like this where I have the forest and the mountain as one texture because it makes sense since they're both mostly horizontal and not vertical. So I can fit them onto one 1024 by 1024 texture and have just really no real degradation in quality. So that helps save a little bit. And currently, if we actually look at the planes level, turn on stats and hit play. It's actually pretty bad. I think it's a lot better than what it used to be. It used to be like a couple hundred, like maybe 200 or 300. And part of this is it's hard to tell because it's probably been tainted from my substance stuff. But like most of those draw calls you're seeing are actually from this wheat field, and that's because these are just sort of stretched objects that were meant to. Oh, wow, I've never done that before. Huh, interesting. Double clicking, middle mouse clicking. I've never done that. That's super cool. Sorry, got distracted there. Oh, it looks like I fixed it. I think. Nope, I didn't fix it. So these are like each one of these rows are just scaled objects, which is terrible because every object that's scaled is an extra draw call. So that's why a lot of those draw calls are probably coming from this field. And I'm guessing that part of those draw calls have been dropped because of Unity's optimizations in the engine. Because again, back when I first did this, this was like late Unity 3, early Unity 4, and they were just terrible with draw calls and draw call management. So I ended up just having a bunch of extra draw calls, and it had noticeable frame rate drops too. That's how bad it was. To the point where actually to even show this level, originally I had to use Sector. And this is actually the reason I got Sector, so that I could cull these when you weren't looking at them. So yeah, it was a little messy, but it looks like it's gotten a lot better since then. Grab this, head over here. making a Minecraft-like game where you could place a torch with a dynamic light, look great, kill performance when people. Yeah, well, at a certain point, I don't know how Minecraft does it. It has to be using vertex lighting. It has to be. Because you could use billions of vertex lights and it just does nothing for your performance. Because vertex lighting is so cheap. It's. I mean, actually, I don't know if it's practically free, vertex lighting. Because it's basically non existent performance wise. Which is why once you go over your sort of set pixel limit or pixel light limits, it defaults to vertex lit for your lights. So if you use vertex lighting for a lot of it, it would probably be fine. The problem with vertex lighting is that it requires more vertices. It requires more edges, more polygons to actually look nice. So it's a trade-off basically. I think they actually are static right now. Yeah, they're static. I don't think they're not batching static because they're below 300. And there's this weird thing with batching meshes. I think if you batch meshes, if you don't mark meshes that are below like 300 polygons as static, they'll be dynamically batched, which is actually more performant than statically batching them. There was an article I read a long time ago that talked about it, and that might have changed since then. But back then, that was actually the way that they were stressing that you do things, so it's kind of awkward. Um, I mean that's an optimization pass that I need to make at some point. I'm just trying to redo things as best I can, more or less nowadays. Um, Stretch this. Let's move this here. Move this here. I'm just going to do this. That doesn't look too bad. On the longer ones, it almost looks correct, even. Yeah, I saw Williams tweet about that, and I was like, how do you even have 50,000 draw calls? I was legitimately confused. I don't know how he did that because I thought they were all using the same material. I think it was a pro builder thing actually. They were probably all using instance materials, was my guess. And instance materials are terrible for performance. So he probably was. Yeah, that was my guess as to what was happening there. And I'm sure that he got a huge performance boost by dropping them down to what he got it down to like 800 or something like that, 800 or 500 from 50,000. Insanity, utter insanity. I think I want to go this way. Yes, haha! I got it right on the third one. All right. Let's just go ahead and do this. UV. Grab these. Slam them down. Grab these. Slam them down. Grab these. Slam them right. And grab these and slam them left. Grab all of them. Over here. Scale it up a little bit. Move it up. Scale it out just a little bit. Move it out. And there we go. Ta-da! Got our mountain textured now. Cool. So we got our mountain and our forest all nice and textured. So I'm going to go ahead and export this as a test. Let's minimize this. Call this forest. Move this up. We're going to delete the old dark forest. So I'm going to go ahead and export everything we have. Do File, Export Selection. Call this Planes. Export Selection. And let's see. We're going to have that and this. Come over here, go to Planes. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. And actually, we're going to go over to Overworld Planes. And we'll just pull it in here. And we'll pull in planes.fbx. So, let's go to Models, Levels, Overworld, Planes, planes.fbx. Don't need any animation. Don't need any sort of rig applied to it. And I'm not sure what we're going to need to pull it in as, size-wise. So we'll just take a guess. Pull this in. So it's super tiny. I'm guessing it's probably going to be like 100, maybe 1. Oh dear, how big is that? Oh my goodness. Oh, it's because I applied it to the wrong one. Apply on that. That was my fault. Select this. There we go. Let's make this 100. Hit apply. Nope. 10. Are you kidding me? It's some awkward dimension. Of course it is. I don't know, 50. Great. Let's try 25. I bet it's whatever my canyon was also. 30. 30 is correct. Okay. Yeah, he definitely did not have 50,000 objects. But I remember that there's some one of the things you need to be careful of with ProBuilder is that you need to eventually merge things down, if I remember correctly. Oh, hold on. I got like 5,000 messages from work, and make sure that things aren't on fire real quick. Sorry about that. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff you got to be careful with ProBuilder, which admittedly I need to get more into ProBuilder. I want to try it some more, but I just haven't had the time to experiment with that tool. Yarg. Got like 50,000 things all trying to talk and text and message people and say that everything's okay. It's super hard. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and turn off our old level, or at least our old planes, and then we're gonna apply our textures to the current planes. So we'll come down to substance. Let's see, we have Forest Mountains. It's gonna come over here. Forest Mountains, come here. Forest Mountains, Forest Mountains. Get our grass. Which I think is actually currently two tiled. I'll do one by one. Yeah, I think that's closer to what I was originally going to have done. Oh my god. Texts everywhere. Grab my dirt, apply that here, apply it here, and then we just have our soil last. That's going to go here. Perfect. So now, if we play, and before I do that, I need to make sure that I have colliders on my floor. Dirt path. Add physics mesh collider. Cool. So let's play. Oof. Okay, I need to redo that mountain. Oh! Well, actually, it's hard to say because this doesn't have any lights right now. There's no lighting baked in, which means that looking terrible could be because there's no lights. At least for this, for the oh no! I walked onto the I walked onto the soil, and the soil does not have a collider. Let me fix that. Component physics mesh collider. There we go. Oh, that's cool. Didn't realize I would open that with Substance Player. Let's play again. Yeah, I actually have Pro Builder. I have the Procore bundle because I got it when it was on sale. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's got a lot of cool stuff on there. Oh man, that just looks so terrible. Ugh. Ugh. I need to bake lights before I can actually judge that, but I won't do that on the stream, obviously. Still super satisfying to go through the wheat fields. I don't know what it is, but something about sprinting through the wheat fields always felt really satisfying to me. Like sprinting across horizontally or sprinting through them, down the rows. Always feels nice. It just looks nice, I think. It looks cool. Anyway. Performance, we're getting about what we were before. Again, a lot of that's probably coming from the wheat fields. Texture doesn't look too bad. Mountains look fine for now. Generated texture, yeah, that's substance. So what substance does is it doesn't actually have. Yeah, see, that's what I was talking about. It looks really shitty. I need to change that. I think I know how I can fix that. I will deal with that in a second. Yeah, and this is also another reason why I need to bake light maps because you can see it's freaking height maps. It's messing with our sort of normal map stuff here. And things are coming in at a slightly lower resolution than I would like, and I think that's because of the light map. Anyway, so yeah, these textures, they don't actually exist. Although I hate that it's doing it like this. Let me see if I can open the grass one. No, of course not. I think I can force them to generate by doing that. So these textures are actually just data that's held inside the substance. So if I look at my, I think I have the folder open over here. So this is my substance file, this .sbsar. It's 11 kilobytes for dirt. And if I go to my textures, go to dirt SVG by itself, which is just the base color. Actually, it's not even the base color. I just use the mask, really. At this point, I only really use these masks. They're 10 kilobytes. And if it was a PNG, you can see this dirt base color PNG, that's 13 kilobytes. So, and that's just a solid color export. That's not including stuff like normal maps, metallic and roughness maps, or any sort of height maps or other maps that I generate. So Substance is just this very, very tiny file that just has data on what it needs to generate, and then when you run the application at runtime, it actually generates them. So it's heavier on your GPU and your RAM usage, but it's not. It's a lot smaller file size wise, so it's a really, really nice trade-off. And because I'm not doing anything too crazy with my substances, it's actually not that I'm not really losing any performance. The worst of it is just that I have longer loading times for my levels, and that's not terrible, honestly. And since it caches it's really only noticeable for the first time you ever load a level. But from that 11 kilobyte file, I get a color map. Of course, okay, we'll look at the Canyon one. I get a color map. I get a normal map, which has roughness to it, so you can see that things look a little displaced. I get a metallic map, which also doubles as a smoothness map. If I show you the alpha, which it's completely not smooth. So it's a really nice thing. It's really cool, and that's why I've started to use it way more. Because it was something I saw way like a year or two before that, like 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's awesome, and I want to do that. And then it wasn't until last summer that I was just like, I hunkered down and I'm like, okay, I paid for this, I need to actually use it. And I'm very happy that I did, because I really like these textures. They feel a lot better, and they're not just flat text. They actually have texture to them. You can see the sort of rough bumps on the normal map, and the sort of strands of grass in the grass. Anyway, and this is what the textures used to look like, these sort of flat, just one, nothing too impressive textures. Anyway, so let's go back to Maya. So our base level is pretty much done. Right, I need to do this. So the other thing I wanted to do is, work with me here. Okay, really. Let's go to Edge, click on this, hit F, there we go. So, if we look at this in Unity, this is one of the things I was talking about I really don't like. If I come over here, this is the transition to the canyon level. It just sort of falls off. I need to have something at the end of this that curves so that it looks like this path actually continues on past where the transition zone is. I have a similar problem with my Dark Forest transition over here. I think I'm going to end up shrinking my level a little bit too. So you can see the end of this transition. Fortunately, it actually looks a little bit better here because it blends in with the tree aesthetic, so it's not as noticeable. And once you bake light maps for this, it actually gets a lot darker over there. But this area in the corner over there, it's just open, and that's not acceptable. So, yeah, I definitely need to shrink this level a little bit because there's a lot of running around going on that's not really necessary, and I hate wasted running. So maybe shrink it just a little bit, maybe by 10%, so it's a little faster to get around places. It's already about like a third of the original size. I think originally it was just huge. It was just unnecessarily large. So let's come back here. And yeah, the bug. That was also, I think, the first particle effect I did for the game, or at the very least one of the first ones that I did, and it's just a really nice Fireflies particle effect. It says bug. Minimize that. All right. Let's come back over here. So I think I'm going to end up having individual models. I don't know if I want to. Right. It's not great. So I need to figure out how I want to do these rows of wheat. So I can either have the rows of wheat be part of the level, like in this mesh, or I could make them their own separate thing. So currently they're all their own individual object, but I could conceivably just make them part of this original mesh. That way, if I scale it up or down, I don't have to worry about realigning these things. think I'm going to do that. So I will go to here. Going to grab freaking Windows 10. Won't let me pull this through. I'm going to grab this, just move it over here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and add a new group. Call this wheat field. And then we're basically going to have row 1. We're going to have multiple rows. I think we end up having like 13-ish rows, maybe more than that. Let's see. Okay, well, no, these are sections. Right. So we end up having 28 rows, because of course we do, because I'm a crazy person. So we have 28 rows of wheat. Fortunately, we really only have to do one row, and then we can just duplicate and move. That does not look like it should be 28. That looks like it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh dear, it's tiled. Oh no. You're tiled, aren't you? Ah, it's tiled times 2! Crap! Okay, dang it, that makes things harder. So that means we're going to come back here, go to our object mode, go to soil. Let's see, color transparency. I should have an option to tile this. And I don't, for some reason. Okay, fine. Then we'll just do this. Create materials, Phong, and delete soil mat. Soil mat. Change our color from file. Grab this. Soil base color, hit OK. Soil text. Click on this. Existing materials, soil mat. Okay, so that's back to where it should be. And now on this, my actual soil, I should have an option. Okay, I apparently forget where my tiling options are. I bet it's actually probably over here. So, I don't like to tile. I really don't like to tile. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab my UVs, grab my face here, and then I'm going to scale it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I scale in steps of 1. Ta-da! So now, my soil is correctly sized for what it was in the game. Oh man, 28 rows. Why am I so crazy? So now we can actually get started on our wheat field. Come over here, drag my object field over here, grab row 1, and now we just need to make a plane. Bam. Change our plane, make it have 1 subdivision each way. Go to our attribute editor. Go ahead and minimize this for now. Change our direction. Move it up a little bit first. So change our direction so that it's facing 1 in the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. So now it's facing this way. And now all we have to do is move it over. Move it down. Go ahead and hit F. Let's move it up. All right. Then next we're going to go ahead and change our height to, I'm guessing, actually not height. Oh no, that's going to be height. 5. I'm guessing. This is hard to tell, honestly. We'll do a test. We'll import this and see what it ends up coming up as. Our width is going to be pretty large. I'm guessing no less than 100. It might be way longer than that. It's probably like 200. Let's end up doing this. And this was the other problem that I had with this. Yeah, it's gonna be slightly less than 200, I think. It's actually at a slight angle, a very, very, very slight angle. Not even 15. Not even 5. I bet it's something like 2.5. It's not a good angle to try and do this at. So let's go 2.5, 2.75, 2.8. 2.8 is close. 2.9. 2.9 is closer. I love doing approximations like this. Just great. Just love it. All right. So that seems to work. All right. And we're going to go ahead and snap this to 60.5 in the z-axis. Change our width to 190. Okay, a little bit longer than that. Now let's try 195. There we go. That way it's just not fully on the edges. I want to have some sort of area left over. 195 looks good. Looks like we're not getting any significant clipping underneath, which is good. Then, let's see, translate Y. Let's bump that up to 2.5, so it's going to go a little bit lower. But it's at an even number, which is better. No, let's bump that up to 12.3. I hate that it's an awkward angle like this. You can just tell. It's very slight, but you can tell. I'm going to change my rotate to 2.95. Nope, too much. Let's go 2.875. Just subtle changes that make it frustrating to work with. 2.85. Yeah, 2.85 ends up looking a little bit nicer, actually. And then we'll change 12.3 to 12.35. Let's do 12.4. And 12.5, I think it's going to overshoot it. Yeah, that overshoots it. It's almost perfect, actually. Ah, holy crap. I think it actually is perfect. Ah, yes! I found it. I finally found the correct angles. I can't tell you how exciting that is for me, actually. I've been trying that forever. It's taken me forever to actually get anything even remotely correct. Okay. So let's open up our. I'm gonna call this side A. Let's duplicate that. We're gonna rotate it. Oh damn! Can't just do that, can I? Nope. Unless I'm lucky. Yes. Yes, I can. Side B. Cool. And now, yep, we'll get Z fighting, which is fine. We're only going to get Z fighting in the editor for our Maya file. In Unity, backface culling will be in effect, so this won't actually affect anything, which is nice. So, this is going to be the challenge. Let's go ahead and move this over here. We're going to set this to 0, 0, 0. And then move that there. All right. So, fun part is next I need to say modify freeze transformations. Modify freeze transformations. go ahead and edit delete history on this guy too. So now if I move these guys into here, they will be, I was worried about that. Yeah. Not a great thing. Let's Command Z a little bit, real quick. So before we freeze this, let's position them underneath row 0, 1. And then now let's freeze these guys' rotations. I'm sorry, modify. Freeze transformations. Let's see if that ends up. Okay, that's better. All right. So now we get the fun part of actually duplicating all of our stuff. And actually, you know what? We're not going to do that. I don't want to duplicate all of these things because I'm going to have to do UV layouts on them first. So I think what I'm going to do, since I still need to make the texture, and it's been almost 2 hours already, I think I'm going to call it a night for tonight's dev stream. And then I will work to get a wheat field texture updated and applied to this. So by Thursday's stream, I hope to have, if not the entire area, the entire plains area remodeled out, at the very least have the wheat field textured and modeled and fully done. That way it'll reduce all of our draw calls and we'll get better performance overall, hopefully. And I'll also be able to make a light map so that we can see if the mountains actually look terrible, if that's just because they don't have lights on them. So I think that's going to do it for me tonight. And we will, tomorrow's Wednesday, so we won't be streaming tomorrow, but we will be streaming Thursday to try and get some programming done. I don't know what we're going to focus on, but it will be programming oriented. Probably be something in the first levels to make sure that everything runs smoothly. I think we still have a couple of bugs to work out with the save system that I haven't finished yet. I'll have to check my Trello stuff, see what I have. But that's where we are right now. So that's going to do it for me. As always, thank you all very much for watching. Thank you, Garrett, for stopping by. Always good to see you. And I will see you all next time.